Hello and welcome back, friends. Welcome to another video tutorial from Shamu's Biology. In this video lecture, we'll be talking about the overview of immune system and immunity. Now this will be a series of videos on immunology. So if you like this subject and if you want to gain some knowledge about immunology in the simplified fashion, you can watch all this video of this series. This is going to be the first video of this immunology video series, and this is where I talk about the overview and try to give you a big picture of what immunology is and what our human immunity is all about. You probably heard so many things, so many confusing terms and numbers and all these things in immunology that makes this feel like complicated. But once you dig inside, exclude all those difficulties outside, it will be really simple. So let's talk about it from this first video. This video I'll be summarizing all the facts of immune system. I'll be summarizing the facts of immunity and how it actually works in our body. The first thing and the easiest way to think about immunity is a process of let's say your body is a country, or let's say your body is a city, and in that city you have a jurisdiction system where you have cops, where you have those detectives who will find out any mob and mobsters that are rising there and going there to destroy your city. Whatever bad people that they come and destroy your city and city's peace, there will be cops and detectives to find them out. And when they find them out, they will put them in prison, or they will ultimately, if they do a lot of bad things, they will put them even up to the death. So that is the idea of immune system, because you know our body's duty, the whole body is keeping itself healthy. It's its own duty that to keep and monitor that all the part of our body is healthy. Why we need to think about that in the first place? Because we have invaders, we have foreign materials coming inside our body. Example, bacteria, viruses. They are dangerous. They try to compromise our body's system. They will invade inside our body, into the body cells, destroy the body cells, destroy the components of our body, and ultimately make us sick. And our body is not going to stand in that mode. It's going to protest against that, against bacteria, against virus, against parasites, protozoas, all those different pathogens. So whatever type of pathogen is, our body is prepared to fight against those pathogens, and this immune system is fighting against those pathogens to keep us healthy. Okay, that in a sense is the overview and generalized idea of immunity. Now in immune system you see a lot of terms like innate, adaptive, and all these things like barriers, complement, neutrophil, so many cell names and stuff. Now it might seem confusing, but in a moment we are going to link all those things together to make you realize what we are actually talking about. But from now on, I want to talk to you about a very simple analogy. Now as we know, there are very simple things. Some invaders, they try to infect us and make us sick, and also we try to fight against those invaders. That is the simplified fashion, a simplified manner of thinking of immunity. Now first thing, our body is protected, our body is gated and completely covered with so many different regions, so that those invaders cannot take entry in the first place, right? And those are known as barriers. Our body contains barriers. Barriers, for example, the most important barrier of all, skin. Whole body is covered with the skin, and skin is the largest organ of our body. It is covering the complete body. So if any of the bacteria and virus needs to take entry, they need to evade our skin. Okay, how could they evade the skin? If the skin is cut due to some wound or injury, or let's say if any other, by any means, so for example vectors like mosquito, if they bite us, in that, through that sense they can take entry. So there are different rules, but they actually need to bypass the barrier of skin. So this is one sort of barrier, skin, the most important defense that we have in the primary level. Except for that, we have epithelial cells. Okay, for example, epithelial cells in our gut, in the stomach, epithelial cells in the intestine. We also have mucosal layers. Where we don't have skin, we have mucosal layers. For example, if you look at eye, There's a mucus layer covering the eye. There's no skin covering the eye regions here, but a mucus layer is covering that, and we keep on refreshing that area. We keep on putting all those liquids that goes there to make it moist and keep it safe. And they also secrete in the tear, you know, they also carry some sort of antibiotic functional chemicals. So these things are there to protect us against the situations. In the stomach, however, you know, we eat a lot of food. So if any of the bacteria present in the food, it can go and make harm. Now, to protect that, in the stomach, they release acids. Stomach is very acidic, like pH 2 or 3, very acidic. In those conditions, it will also not allow the bacteria to survive. So there are different lines of defense, and there is another very important defense and barrier, that is natural flora or normal flora of our body. Our body, especially in the gut, it's filled with so many good bacteria. They reside in our body. They produces vitamin K, which helps us to enrich, and also they stay there and fight against all those pathogens. There are good bacteria for us, there are bad bacteria for us. Now this good bacteria present in our gut, they help us against those bad bacteria. Okay, so this, in a sense, if I summarize this thing, because this thing you should understand first, that's why I talk about barriers first. We have skin, we have mucosa, we have pH in the gastric juice, we have normal flora, and we have epithelial cell. So these are all the part of the barrier that is protecting us. Now for any infection to progress, this barrier needs to be destroyed. That is the first thing a pathogen should do. So if it's a bacteria or a virus, it will break them down through the skin, or they can take entry through the skin. Example, bacteria like Staphylococcus, Streptococcus. They can entry through the food, through the gastrointestinal pathway. They can take entry through our mucous layers and mucosal pathway, example Neisseria. So all these things they need to first compromise, then they can take entry. Now the thing is, our body knows all its flaws. It knows when a bacteria can take entry, from which part they can take entry. So our body is ready for any kind of situation, and it's a very, very important and very intelligent way of handling all those things. So what they know is that they will first break the barrier, the pathogen will take entry. So our body have two different line of defense. One line of defense is those remote cops. That means different cells that are present throughout our body, that are present in our bloodstream, which is circulating around our bloodstream, which is also present in different tissue layers of our body. The job of those cells is, if there is any sort of foreign pathogen invades, they will take them, kill them in the first place. They will not look at anything. They will find them, they will kill them. This is one sort of response. This response is very, very fast. Even they don't care about anything. They just know if there is any pathogen, they need to kill that. That is the response. Okay, so they are roaming throughout our body. So that part of immune system is very important. And there is another part of immune system that is only specific. Let me talk about it. The first type of immune system I talked about, which is always present in our body, and whenever pathogen enters, it will kill it. That is known as the innate immune system, because if we are dividing immunity, the first type we talk about is innate, because in that case, this immunity is always on. It is always on. So there are two types of this innate immunity. In the innate immunity, cells are present across our body, different regions in tissue, in bloodstream. If there is any pathogen, it will kill it. Now there are two types of innate defense mechanism. One type is that it could be always on. That means this defense will be always on. And the example I told you, cells are present in our tissue. If there is a pathogen, it will kill it. Or there could be immediate response, which is not always ready, but if pathogen enters, then our body produces that. Remember the two differences. Some part is always ready in our body, so they keep on producing certain things that is always present in our body to fight against infection. And the examples are barriers. They are always present. Barriers always present in our body, so they don't need to think about that. They are always present to fight against it. There is another thing called complement system. Complement system are not cells, but they are chemical factors that are present in our body. They will target specific pathogen, and as a result of this target, they will create pores in bacteria, and as a result the bacteria will be killed or will die. So these two things, barriers and complement system, is always present in our body every single time, no matter if there is any pathogen present or not, but they will have all those things ready every time. That means even there is any attack, they will fight against it right at the beginning. That is the idea of innate defense or innate immunity at the very beginning, because they are always on. Now, as for example, I am talking right now, explaining this stuff. Complement is activated in our body. It's always, it's active in my body, it's active in your body. Barriers are always activated. As I am talking right now, bacteria are all around us, they are sitting in my skin, but they can't invade due to the skin layer. So this is always on, it's protective. Now there is another mode of immune system which is not always on, but when the bacteria will enter, it will develop very rapidly. For example, there are some cells that are present in our bloodstream, which are present there but sitting there, not activated. Whenever there is any bacteria invades or any virus invades, these cells will be activated and they will start doing their job. Example is neutrophils and antigen presenting cells. So let me write them down here. Neutrophils and antigen presenting cell, both are cells. So these two things are cells which are present, but it will be activated when there is any invading agent present in our body. Neutrophil is a part of white blood cell, and all those antigen presenting cells we'll talk about, most of them they are from white blood cells, and some lymphocyte cells we will talk about later. Now among antigen presenting cells we have some examples like we have dendritic cells, okay, we have macrophage in it. So these cells are present, macrophage, dendritic cells, they are always present, but they will become activated, and these cells, macrophage, dendritic cells, even neutrophils, they are phagocytic cells. So let me write phagocyte. Phagocyte means they will engulf other cells, or they will engulf bacteria or invading pathogen. They can engulf things, destroy them down, and they can also take a fragment of this destruction and show them outside as an antigen. They can present the antigen by destroying it. That's why they call antigen presenting cells. We'll talk about all these things in details, but remember, these both things are the part of innate immunity. That means they are present, but some of them are always active no matter when the bacteria is there or not. Some of them only gets activated if there is any pathogen inside our body. This is the part. Now the second part of our immunity is completely different. Now if you look at this part, they don't know what kind of bacteria take entry. They don't even want to know. It might be any type of bacteria, it could be any strain of the virus. They don't know that. They just know it is a pathogen, it is a foreign body, and we need to destroy it. That's the idea. They are not specific, they are broad way of defense. While there is another side of body's immunity which take longer time to develop but more specific. Let's say this bacteria start producing so many different pathogenic materials. It's producing toxins and different things that are breaking down the immune system, and this broad system is not enough to fight against that bacteria. Now normally the strategy of bacteria is also very intelligent. They will thrive when they have a huge number of cells together. Okay, so once they start doing all those things, they start creating all those toxic materials, they're releasing all those chemical factors that are actually destroying the cell. Then at that condition, body can not take the responsibility only due to this innate immunity. They need to have a more specific response to kill that bacteria. Now that specific response is required for the adaptive immunity. It's called adaptive immunity or acquired immunity. In this case, the immunity is developed once a pathogen enters and showcase its properties, because a pathogen have different types of antigens present. Now those antigens will be indicated, and once they see those antigens, our body, they will start producing specific antibodies against those antigens to specifically destroy those cells, and that antibody response is very specific, though it will take longer time to develop. So that side of immunity is known as adaptive immunity. In adaptive immunity is also known as delayed response, because it takes longer time to develop. But this delayed response, they will produce cells known as lymphocytes. There are two types of cells that are produced in the lymphocytes. One is called T cell, another one is called the B cell. This T cell are helping other cells. For example, T cells activate B cells in further line. Now once B cells are active, B cells will produce antibody. They will produce lot and lots of antibodies over there. So let me not take a different color to highlight this one. Let's say this one, green one. Okay, so this B cells start producing antibody, and the antibody will be very specific against the pathogen, kill that. While T cells can also be divided into two different parts. It is divided into CD4 type of T cell and CD8 type of T cell. CD4 type of T cell becomes helper cell. Helper cell means it helps other cells. For example, CD4 cells can help other B cells to develop, while CD8 T cells are known as killer T cells. Killer T cells means this T cell will start and find specific target and it will kill them, while CD4 type is known as a helper T cell, which will help other cells to grow and immunity to boost. Now as you see, these are the two separate way of approaching to kill a bacteria or approaching to kill a pathogen. So when the pathogen inside, our body is ready from the primary defense, which is broad defense, innate immunity in our body. When that immunity started, then innate immunity will crosstalk with adaptive immunity. There are signaling processes between innate and adaptive immunity, when innate immunity will tell adaptive immunity to grow and develop, because no matter the situation is, our body is not ready to compromise with it. Innate will start working, but it will call the adaptive that yes, we require more soldiers, we require more specific soldiers, because they are coming in huge numbers, so send them in. Now when adaptive get that signal, it start producing antibody specifically against that pathogen. Antibody will kill that pathogen, and then with the help of this job of innate along with adaptive immunity, we can be safe. So it's nothing like innate will do the job or adaptive will do the job, who is best or not. It's the combination. Our body works in combination with hands to hand interaction with innate immunity with the adaptive immunity. But remember, in this whole process, they have two separate ways of thinking. Innate is doing the first cover, adaptive is doing the cover, and ultimately taking the job to end. So they do both required in different stages. And you know, for this crosstalk I talk about, this is the most important thing to understand when you are talking about immune system or immunity, because once you know, there are so many factors involved with that in this interaction, but this interaction is very, very important for a proper cure against infection. So this in a sense is all immune system. Now one more thing I should talk about here is, you know, there are two things I've drawn actually in this case. Let me draw another thing, green circle over there. Why I'm drawing green circles and red circles, the reason for it is that, you know, this complement and this antibody, they are not cell, they are protein factors that are present in our body, in the bloodstream. But here you see the neutrophil, dendritic cells, natural killer cell, macrophage. These things are cells, lymphocytes, they are cells. But antibody, complement, they are not cell. So there are two types of factors that are involved in the immune system. One are the cellular type factor, another one is chemical or proteinaceous factors. The cell type factors mediated system of immunity is known as cell mediated immunity. Cell mediated immunity. The example for that is this antigen presenting cells, natural killer cells, T lymphocytes, neutrophils, eosinophils, and so on. While the other one, like complement system, which are protein factors, antibody, protein factors, which are present, those mediated immunity, complement mediated immune system or antibody mediated immunity is known as humoral immune system or humoral immunity, because they are not the part of the cell in our bloodstream. They are the part of the plasma. They present in the plasma. Both of this, complement as well as antibody, you will find them in the blood plasma, not in the cellular component. So that, in a sense, is what is innate immunity, what is adaptive immunity, and we also talked about humoral immunity, cell mediated immunity. So do not confuse with these terms. I hope I am able to give you an overview of immune system and how it will work. Now in the next video we will talk about all this type of cell mediated factors and those cells that are involved in the immune system. We'll talk about the cells, what are their features and what they actually do. And then after that we will talk about the interactions of cell and humoral immunity together and how they exactly crosstalk, how this crosstalk between innate and adaptive immunity actually take place in very basic overview. Then we'll talk about the simple stages one at a time in much more details. So stay tuned and watch this whole series throughout. If you like this video, please hit the like button, subscribe to my channel to get more videos like that, and definitely put some comment. Thank you.